Not individually, the Igbos did not support Buhari. They didn't think he was good for Nigeria.
Individually?
Individually, Igbos, individually, not just collectively. Igbos are not a very collective people, know that. You have to understand that. We have our own opinions, we have our own mindset, and we do our things based on the way we say, based on conscience, based on conviction. So Igbos didn't think Tinubu was right for Nigeria, and they kicked against him, right? So basically, we're not a people that will be told what to do. So that's why I'm saying we have a great sense of good leadership. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to pick good leaders most of the times because of the system of elections in Nigeria, the kind of,
President General of Ohanaeze Igbo has spoken. Of course, we know that IPOB did weigh in on this, and we've seen the arguments on a day, since Monday, especially on social media, where Igbo have been making videos and saying that they would not join the peaceful protests that are happening in some parts of the country. In the southwest, we've seen some peaceful protests in Oyo, Ibadan, and some other places. In the north, we've also seen protests in the previous week. People are saying that they are not going to protest the hardship in the country. What do you think about this stance?
It's a welcome development.
Welcome.
It's a welcome development. Yes.
Why so? Because protests are bad, or because
because the Igbos have a peculiar stance in Nigeria. We have a peculiar situation or position in Nigeria, right? So I am happy. First of all, we knew it was going to come to this, right? We as Igbos, a lot of us, the Igbos, knew this was going to happen. We anticipated this, right? We knew this government was going to bring bad news for Nigeria. We predicted it. I had a number of interactions with you. I predicted the rise of the dollar, if you remember.
Yes.
So I said the dollar was going to hit 1,000. Now it's at almost 2,000, right? So we predicted a lot of things that are happening now. We knew this government had nothing to offer. This is not to play politics, right? But we knew this government had nothing to offer. We knew the economy was going to die. We said it. We predicted it. And so when we said to people, vote right, vote the right person. Do not vote tribe. Do not vote party. Do not be sentimental about the future of Nigeria, because your vote carries the well-being of Nigeria, carries the future of Nigeria, carries potential to fix Nigeria, right? And so we said, don't play politics, don't play tribalism with your vote. And people didn't listen, right? And so what we saw on social media was that Igbos are a problem in Nigeria. Igbos are a problem for the economy. Igbos are this. Igbos are bad. Peter Obi will never be president. As some people went as far as saying, as long as I'm alive, Peter Obi will never be president. Somebody like the unwise and very childish, what's his name? The guy that was with the government, Reno Mokri. That as long as he's alive, that Peter Obi will never be president, because you're God. And we said, listen, we're not supporting Peter Obi because we are Igbos. We're supporting Peter Obi because we see that of all the candidates that are running for this election, he is the most qualified. He's told us what he's going to do for Nigeria. So independent of race or tribe, we've seen the man for the job. Let's give him a try. And they said no. So we said, okay, fine, you're going to see what it comes down to. So we knew this was going to happen. So Igbos are not shocked. That's number one. We anticipated this. Number two, Igbos are not going to participate in the nationwide, demonstrations that are being planned. Because for a number of reasons, Igbos have always been alone. We've always stood alone. 54 years ago, Igbos saw injustice and cried about it. Nobody listened. Igbos took a fall for it. The pogrom in the north, majority of the Igbos were killed. Thousands of Igbos were killed, if not hundreds of thousands were killed. That's before the Civil War, right? Because of the injustice that was being perpetrated in Nigeria by northern politicians, right? And so the Igbos cried aloud and nobody listened. Now, it came down to the war. The Igbos stood alone. The rest of Nigeria stood against the Igbos. Now, as a matter of fact, the marginalization that has happened against the Igbos the last 54 years is of the mentality that no, you lost the war. So now we're going to cap your wings. We're going to teach you a lesson. So the majority of Nigerians have hated the Igbos the last 54 years. So on national issues, Igbos always stood alone. We've always stood alone, right? So when it comes to issues like this, then you want the Igbos to come out. But when the Igbos are really touching on when the situations or issues are really touching on the Igbos, we cry out and nobody listens. We cry out and nobody comes to us. When it comes to creation of states, no, the Igbos don't get nothing. When it comes to national projects, the Igbos get nothing. Right? 2 years ago, 3 airports in 3 regions in Nigeria were designated special economic, how do you call it, airports. Igbos got nothing. The Southeast got nothing. Rail lines were built from Ibadan to Lagos, a beautiful, magnificent project they did. I give them kudos for that. It's beautiful, right? From Ibadan to Lagos. Now, they planned another one from the north to Niger. I don't know where that one stands right now. But nothing was given to the Southeast. So infrastructurally, they've given nothing to the Southeast. All of Nigeria bands together, including the South, against the Igbos. So now, push has come to shove and you're calling the Igbos to come out. Come out for what? You've never supported us. You've never shown us that we're part of this family of supposed one Nigeria. You've never shown us that you really care about the plight of the Igbos, right? Look at what's happening in Lagos right now. Many Igbo shops are being shut down, torn down. Properties are being torn down. Majority of these properties are Igbo owned. Now, people are going to say, Abiakwa, you're politicizing the whole thing. It's not about politics. We know clearly what's going to happen, what's happening. When they decided to shut down Alaba, it affected the Igbos. When they decided to shut down Mandelas or Aspanda, it affected the Igbos. When they decided to shut down, how do you call it, Computer Village, it affected the Igbos. Majority of the properties torn down, even though I blame some of those construction work, right, were done against the Igbos. Not one Nigerian, not one Northern leader, not one Western leader, not one South leader stood up and said that this treatment against the Igbos is wrong, it's immoral, and we cannot stand and let it happen. None of them said a word.
All right, you know, you said something about hate. I think hate is too strong a word to use in describing.
Well, but it's my opinion.
Okay, but you know, the stance that Igbo will not join the protests happening or intended to happen around the country would, seem like Igbo always get it right with their leadership choices. Have we always gotten it right?
No.
This is just one instance.
Yes.
The first time we've had a very prominent Igbo man who contested tooth and nail in the presidential elections, and Igbo supported him.
Yes.
But coming down to our leadership choices, governors, lawmakers, have we gotten it right to think that we have this superior knowledge of what is right in terms of leadership as against what other parts of the country have chosen?
No, we've not always gotten it right, and there's a reason we've not always gotten it right. Politics in Nigeria is very complicated. Politics in Nigeria is complicated in the sense that our votes have never elected our leaders, right? Politicians have monetized elections, right? Right from the 60s, right? Right from the 60s. There was a video that came out where a former British staff of the Crown who served in Nigeria came out and confessed how the very first election in Nigeria was rigged. Ever since, elections have been rigged in Nigeria. And I am of the school that have always said that the corruption that we see in Africa and in Nigeria today was instituted by the West, and people will usually call and say they don't agree with me. It doesn't matter what you agree with or what you don't agree with. But we know that the corruption that's going on in Nigeria right now was instituted by the West, supported by the West, backed up by the West, because it actually plays into their agenda, economic agenda, for Africa and enriching themselves, right? So that's why really we haven't been able to elect good leaders. But Igbos have a better taste, superior taste of good leadership.
You think so?
Than most of, yes.
Don't
than
you think
most
this
of
is
Nigeria.
sentiment? Because
no, it's not. Let me tell you why.
Why would you say so?
Let me tell you why.
Have we developed more than any other region in the country?
Hear me out now. Igbos have a sense, hear my word, Igbos have a sense of better leadership, right? Now, the Igbo race in Nigeria is the only race or the only region in Nigeria where they choose their leaders not based on, how do you call it, God-given rights. In the north, they have sultans, they have emirs, they have, imams. When they go to prayer on Friday, an imam stands up and says, this is where we're going. Everybody goes that route.
That
right?
you mean people who influence elections?
Elections, leadership, they listen to their leaders. They subscribe to one leader like a god that tells everybody what to do. That's the
There are
north.
people who influence elections down here in the south.
Yes, but hear me out. The dynamics are different. The dynamics are different. Now, if the Northerners in Abuja go to Masalachi on a Friday, and if their leaders say today we're going to burn houses, trust me, they're going to come out of there burning houses. This is an example. Well, the point is, we live in Nigeria, we know what happens. So what I'm trying to say is, these tribes subscribe to one leader or a couple of leaders that tell us where to go, right? And they usually follow, right? But when it comes to the Southeast, we're usually very democratic, you know. And so the Igbos also have another sense of justice and injustice, a high sense of justice and injustice. Igbos understand it clearly, and we seem to have a better conscience than the rest of the people, right? Other people, it's about our tribe, it's about protecting our tribe. If this is what we agreed, we'll do, whether good or bad. It played out in the last election, right? A lot of Yoruba people that supported Tinubu knew he wasn't the right candidate. It happened in the North. The Northerners will tell you that our interest is to protect and perpetuate the North in leadership, in the leadership position of Nigeria. And so it doesn't matter how wrong what we're doing is. It doesn't matter who we need to bribe. It doesn't matter who we need to beat. We'll do that as long as we protect our interests. But you find out that the Igbos will tell you this is not right. And so because it's not right, we will kick against it. And you've seen it the last 3-4 elections, national elections. The Igbos voted differently.
Okay.
The Igbos voted differently. You know, because they believe that the candidates that were fielded were not the right ones, and so they stood
because of the influence of the politicians.
No, it's not. It's not. Individually, the Igbos did not support Buhari. They didn't think he was good for Nigeria.
Individually,
individually, Igbos, individually, not just collectively. Igbos are not a very collective people. Know that. You have to understand that. We have our own opinions, we have our own mindset, and we do our things based on the way we say, based on conscience, based on conviction. So Igbos didn't think Tinubu was right for Nigeria, and they kicked against him, right? So basically, we're not a people that will be told what to do. So that's why I'm saying we have a great sense of good leadership. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to pick good leaders most of the times because of the system of elections in Nigeria, the kind of, you know, the monetization of elections, really. So that's what it is, really. But trust me, Igbos have always stood alone in Nigeria.
Okay, you believe that the system hinders the making of the right choices for those in leadership in the country?
Absolutely.
If that is so for you know what we've done regionally in terms of selecting our governors, our House of Representatives, National Assembly members, don't you think that is so also nationally, and maybe that could be an excuse for what has panned out in the elections, if indeed it's a bad choice that has been made as regards who is president of Nigeria at this time?
But you can see this evidence is clear. It's clear that it's a bad choice. Even the people that said on your mandates we stand, even the people that said local, our local, all of them are crying today, and that's why I'm happy. They're happy because we won them. Right, the ardent supporters of this government are coming out. Look at Asari Dokubo coming out and crying out loud. This government is against the South, it's against the Igbo people, and this and that. But he said, if this government goes wrong, hold me responsible. He said, I am standing behind this government. I tell you, I promise you, I give you my word that he's going to transform your lives. He's going to do this, he's going to do that. And if it goes wrong, hold me responsible. Now, less than 5 months, Asari Dokubo was already crying, right? You see a lot of Yoruba people who supported this government already crying on the streets and pulling their supports for him. So it's clear that Nigerians did not vote this government. I have always said it. Elections have never, I repeat, never elected our leaders. Now, the first time we ever had something close to real elections was this last election because of the wave of P2B and the Labour Party and the obedience. A lot of politicians who are politicians today were ordinary people from the streets who were nothing, had no political pedigree. Right? Today they're senators. Some of them were just nobodies on the street, didn't even own cars. But they became senators and members of the House of Assembly. But because of the obedient movement, a lot of people were elected the right way through the votes of the people. But now the point is that the positions that really matter, the positions that would have really mattered to the growth of the Nigerian economy, you know, to the well-being of the Nigerians were actually manipulated, and that's why you could see that we didn't use the beavers, right? We didn't use a system that was actually designed to collate and announce results. It didn't happen because it was manipulated, right? So that's why we say that this leader right now is not the choice of the people.
It's not the choice of Igbo or
clearly not the
people.
choice of many Nigerians, not just Igbo now.
No, then you're saying two things, because you've said that the other parts of Nigeria did vote for this president right now.
But it will be wrong for you. It will be wrong for you to assume to neglect the fact that a lot of Igbos jumped on the obedient, a lot of Yorubas and how do you call it, South people jumped on the obedient movement. Obedient movement does not really consist of only Igbos. It consists of Igbos, Yorubas, Hausas. What we're saying, some Hausas and other regions, the middle belt, right, jumped on the obedient movement and supported Peter Obi. And really, I want to use the opportunity to thank every Benin person, really, especially people from Benin, because they jumped on this really rather early. Even before the Igbos warmed up to the obedient movement, Benin people were on this, jumped on this, and we're really piloting it a lot, right? I want to say a big thank you to people like Aisha Yusufu, a whole lot of them, the lawyer, what's his name, the Yoruba lawyer, who was really on this movement, Farotimi, right? So people like that, and a whole lot of other Yoruba people that really supported this movement, right? And so we're not going to neglect what they suffered, the trauma and the prejudice they suffered for supporting Peter Obi. But we know that majority of the Yoruba supported our local, they said it's Yoruba's time, and they voted accordingly. So today they're crying foul, right? But what I'm trying to say in essence is that Igbos as a bloc rejected this government. Igbos as a bloc rejected this government. And we are paying dearly for it. But we anticipated the sufferings that are happening today. And that's why we're not really crying like other regions of the world. But remember, the last 54 years, Igbos has suffered. We suffered before the war. What led to the war was the marginalization of the Igbos, right? Now, we suffered before the war. Now, during the war, we suffered. Millions of Igbos, over 3 million Igbos were killed. Now, after the war, Igbos have been segregated, maltreated, and prejudiced, right? We're seen as the bad boys in the house, the black sheep of the house, and we've been treated as such economically. In every other way, we've been treated that way. So Igbos have learned to adapt better than every other Nigerian, because you can see federal might in the west, you can see federal might in the north, and even in the south, right? They've done a lot of governmental projects to the point that even the South has produced a president over and above the Igbos, right? So the Igbo region is the only region that does not get anything based on federal government, that does not depend on federal government for roads, does not depend on federal government for loans for their businesses, does not depend
federal government allocations too, like every other state.
I agree. Yes. Well, you're a journalist, so you're supposed to do this. But the point, we know what we're saying. Now, in the last administration, tell me, in the last 4 administrations, did any of them construct the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway, the most important motorway, the most important interstate? The last 4 administrations. The Enugu-Onitsha Expressway has been bad the last 20 years.
It's better now.
And in the last 20 years, hear me out, in the last 20 years, we've had leaders from different regions of Nigeria, and none of them built the most important interstate project coming to the southeast.
Who are the